Think about the last time your blood sugar just absolutely cratered.
Oh, yeah. That is not a fun feeling.
No, it's really not. You know that highly specific, deeply uncomfortable physical state? Your stomach feels like entirely hollow.
Right. And there's that distinct edge of irritability just sort of creeping into your mood.
Exactly. You get snappy. And maybe if you've gone long enough without a meal, your hands are actually starting to shake a little bit.
Because your body is literally sounding an alarm.
Right. You are entirely focused on one singular biological imperative at that point, which is getting calories into your system.
Yeah, nothing else matters until you eat.
Exactly. Now, I want you to hold on to that very visceral, primitive feeling. Got it.
I've got it.
Okay, because I want you to shift gears entirely. I want you to think about the last time you were walking into a boardroom to pitch an incredibly risky idea to a skeptical boss.
Oh, wow. Talk about a completely different kind of stress.
Totally different. Or, think about the moment you realized you had to figure out a highly tactful way to tell a close friend that you absolutely hated a gift they just bought you.
Yeah, the sudden spike in heart rate there, the sweaty palms, the mental gymnastics of trying not to ruin a relationship.
Exactly. So you've got this intense biological panic on one side and this highly complex, nuanced social tightrope on the other.
Right.
What could those two completely different scenarios possibly have in common?
Well, I mean, on the surface, absolutely nothing.
Right. But today, we are doing a deep dive into an incredible source document focused on advanced English food idioms. And it proves why your corporate boardroom operates exactly like a chaotic restaurant kitchen.
It really does. It's a fascinating breakdown of linguistics.
It is. We are unpacking the architecture of these phrases to understand exactly how, and more importantly, why, native speakers use the literal experience of eating to map out everything from public humiliation to corporate strategy.
And, it makes perfect sense when you take a step back and look at the underlying mechanics of human interaction.
How so?
Well, the premise we're working with from the source material is incredibly grounded. It starts with this simple, undeniable truth. Food is the ultimate universal human experience.
Yeah, everybody eats.
Exactly. It bridges cultures, it crosses geographical borders, and it entirely bypasses language barriers. Eating is so central to our primitive survival that it is literally the one physical experience every human on the planet understands.
It's the ultimate common denominator.
Precisely. So when human beings need to communicate these incredibly complex, abstract concepts,
like professional ambition or embarrassment.
right, things you can't physically touch, we anchor them in the visceral reality of food. We use the language of the stomach to explain the anxieties of the mind.
I love that framing. The language of the stomach explaining the anxieties of the mind. That is so good.
It really captures what's happening linguistically.
It does. And to really understand how that works, we can't start with the abstract, right? We have to start with the physical extremes.
Yeah, we have to establish the baseline.
Exactly. Before we get to boardroom pitches and social manipulation, let's look at how the source describes the absolute outer limits of the dining experience itself.
Right. Moving way past just being hungry or full.
Yeah, we are looking at the linguistic emergency broadcast system.
That's a great way to put it. We are looking at terms that indicate a complete system overload.
Right. And the first one we need to tear apart is the word famished. Now, if you're an advanced speaker, you already know this doesn't mean you could just go for a light snack.
No, absolutely not.
It means you are intensely, aggressively hungry. You are, linguistically speaking, starving.
Right, your tank is completely empty.
And then on the complete opposite end of that spectrum, we have the state of being stuffed.
Which is its own kind of physical extreme.
It is. But I don't just want to define these words today. I want to look at the visual imagery that gets attached to them in the source, because that's where the psychology actually lives.
The imagery is absolutely where the idiom does all its heavy lifting. Take the concept of being stuffed, for example.
Okay, let's look at that.
The materials make this brilliant comparison, linking the feeling of being stuffed after a huge meal to a literal pillow that's been packed with feathers.
Right, which sounds really cozy until you actually think about the physics of it.
Exactly. Think about the physical tension of an overstuffed pillow. The fabric is stretched to its absolute structural limit.
The seams are being tested.
Yes. If you introduce even one more feather, the entire thing might burst.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So when someone leans back from a dinner table and says, "I am absolutely stuffed," they aren't just communicating a lack of appetite.
What are they communicating?
They are communicating a physical boundary. They are telling you, My biological container has reached its maximum structural capacity. Do not offer me another bite, or there will be a catastrophic failure.
That is hilarious. It's a very polite way of saying, my seams are tearing apart right now.
Exactly. It's a structural warning.
But as vivid as that is, the part of this research that really hooked me is the hyperbole we use when we are on the other end of that spectrum.
When we're famished.
Right, when we are famished. The classic, highly dramatic phrase, I am so hungry I could eat a horse.
Right. The ultimate exaggeration.
It really is. Now, obviously, you cannot eat an entire horse. A horse weighs like 1,000 pounds.
Yeah, it's physically impossible.
It's completely ridiculous. But there's a specific phrase used in the analysis of this idiom that I just can't stop thinking about. It says, this phrase expresses the sheer panic of intense hunger.
Yes, and that word panic is not an accident.
No, it feels incredibly deliberate. It's not just an exaggeration of volume. It captures this primal, almost terrifying urgency of a massive blood sugar drop.
It's a genuine biological crisis.
But I have to ask you about this because this feels almost, I don't know, manipulative. If we are just experiencing an internal drop in blood sugar, why do we use such a violent, massive, panic-inducing image like eating a 1-ton animal?
That's a really great question.
Right. I mean, what purpose does that extreme hyperbole actually serve socially? Is it just to make people hurry up and feed you?
Actually, yes.
Yeah.
It serves a vital social purpose because it solves a fundamental communication problem.
Okay, break that down for me.
Well, hunger is entirely invisible. It is a completely internal crisis. I can't feel your blood sugar dropping. I can't hear your stomach lining contracting.
Right, I look totally fine on the outside.
Exactly. But humans are profoundly social creatures. And historically, we have always hunted, gathered, and eaten communally.
We operate in groups.
Right. So if you're experiencing a severe caloric deficit, you need the group to act.
But I can't just, politely lean over and say, excuse me, I am currently experiencing a severe caloric deficit.
No, because the group is just going to say, noted. We'll look for a restaurant in an hour or two.
Right. They won't care. They'll just keep walking.
Exactly. A clinical statement doesn't provoke an urgent response. You need to trigger an empathetic alarm in the people around you.
So you bring up the horse.
Yes. By using this absurd, extreme physical metaphor, eating a massive animal, you are essentially hijacking the group's attention.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
You are bypassing logic and appealing straight to their primal empathy. The exaggeration is basically a verbal flare gun.
The verbal flare gun. I love that.
You are telling the group, my physical systems are shutting down, the social contract of being polite is over, and this is now an urgent situation.
You're saying stop talking, stop walking, and look at a menu right now.
Yes. You are forcing the people around you to recognize the severity of your internal reality by painting the most extreme external picture possible.
Okay, so you've fired the verbal flare gun. The group recognizes your panic. Now you actually have to find a place to eat.
Which is where things get really interesting.
Exactly, because this brings us to a fascinating shift in the language. We move away from the internal panic of hunger, and we start looking at how language judges the physical environment.
And how our brains process sensory triggers.
Right. There are two incredible phrases from the source we need to unpack here. The first is a hole in the wall, and the second is mouth-watering.
This is where we really start seeing how language evaluates authenticity versus aesthetics.
Let's start with the aesthetics, or, well, the lack of them. A hole in the wall.
It's such a counterintuitive phrase.
It really is. Now, if you take that literally, a hole in the wall sounds like structural damage. It sounds like a place that violates several building codes.
Yeah, place you probably want to avoid.
Exactly. But idiomatically, it is one of the absolute highest compliments you can give a restaurant in English.
It really is high praise.
It describes a small, unpretentious, totally hidden spot that doesn't look fancy on the outside, but serves absolutely incredible, authentic food on the inside.
And the contrast is everything here. The source highlights some really great scenarios for this.
Like what?
Like walking past this tiny, completely unnoticed doorway in Rome that serves the most transcendent pasta you've ever tasted.
Oh, man. I can picture that perfectly.
Or, finding a crumbling little storefront downtown that just happens to grill the absolute best burgers or tacos in the entire city.
Right. Places with zero marketing budget.
Exactly. It is the direct polar opposite of a flashy, neon-lit, 5-star tourist trap.
You know what it reminds me of? It's exactly like finding a hidden Easter egg in a video game.
Oh, that's a brilliant comparison.
Right. The developers hide these incredible rewards, but they specifically design the environment so that only the players who are willing to look past the obvious flash domain quest markers will actually find them.
That's exactly it.
If you only look for velvet ropes and giant neon signs, you completely miss the actual prize.
That is a phenomenal analogy, and it touches on a much broader sociological theme that the text explores.
What's that?
Well, we're constantly told from the time we are children, don't judge a book by its cover.
Right. It's the oldest cliche in the book.
But human beings are intensely visual creatures. We do it anyway.
Yeah.
We constantly judge value based on aesthetic presentation.
Yeah, if a restaurant has terrible fluorescent lighting and peeling paint, our survival instinct is just to keep walking.
Exactly. But the hole-in-the-wall idiom subverts that instinct entirely. It's almost used as a badge of honor among native speakers.
Oh, for sure.
When someone tells you, I know this great little hole in the wall, they are simultaneously signaling their own cultural sophistication.
It's a flex.
It absolutely is. They are telling you, I am adventurous enough and discerning enough to look past the superficial marketing. I don't need aesthetic polish. I can identify true, authentic quality.
So it assigns a massive social value to substance over style.
Exactly.
So finding the hole in the wall is a status symbol. And the reward for that cultural sophistication is food, that is, to use our next phrase from the source, mouth-watering.
Which is such a powerful compound word.
It is. Now, on its face, it just seems like a C2 level upgrade for the basic word delicious.
But it is doing so much more mechanical work than the word delicious.
Right. And the example given in our research is a rich, decadent birthday chocolate cake.
A classic trigger.
Yeah. But what really strikes me about mouthwatering is that it isn't just an adjective describing how the cake tastes. It's describing a literal biological event.
It is entirely Pavlovian.
Exactly. It means the food looks or smells so incredibly good that your mouth involuntarily starts to produce saliva in anticipation of eating it.
You're literally watering.
Right. And what blows my mind here is that when you use this phrase, you aren't actually describing the food anymore. You're describing the involuntary bodily reaction the food caused in you.
And by doing that, you trigger mirror neurons in the listener.
Wait, really? How does that work?
Well, it bridges the gap between abstract language and physical biology. If I tell you a cake is delicious, that's highly subjective. You might agree, you might not.
Right, maybe you like vanilla instead.
Exactly. But if I tell you a cake is mouthwatering, I am invoking a deeply sensory physiological response.
Oh, wow.
Your brain instinctively remembers what it feels like to anticipate a perfect meal. You actually feel that slight pooling of saliva. The word itself becomes a sensory trigger.
It's basically linguistic hypnosis. You're making them experience the anticipation just by naming the physical reaction.
That's exactly what it is.
Okay, so you've survived the panic of being famished. You've ignored the shiny tourist traps. You've discovered the authentic hole in the wall.
You're doing great so far.
Right, and your mouth is watering as you wait for your food. But what happens when that supposedly authentic world-class dish finally arrives? You confidently take a huge bite, and your brain completely short-circuits because it tastes absolutely terrible to you.
Ah, yes. The brutal collision of expectation and reality.
Yes. And this shifts our conversation from the joy of immediate gratification to the very uncomfortable reality of delayed appreciation.
We are entering the realm of social friction.
We are. And the phrase we use to navigate this friction is an acquired taste.
It is arguably one of the most sociologically complex idioms we have in English.
It really is. By definition, an acquired taste describes something that you are almost certainly not going to like the first time you try it.
No, your first reaction will likely be negative.
Right. You actually have to force yourself to consume it multiple times, slowly adapting to the flavor profile before you finally cross over into actually enjoying it.
And the source material gives some great classic examples here.
Yeah, the ultimate markers of an adult palate. Things like black coffee, incredibly dark chocolate, pungent cheeses, raw olives.
And the most extreme example we have in our notes, fermented fish.
Oh man, the fermented fish scenario. This is the perfect stress test for this idiom.
It really is.
I want to spend some time on this exact scenario because it feels so culturally universal. Imagine you were at a very nice dinner party.
Setting the scene.
Right. The host, who you respect, serves you a local delicacy of intensely fermented fish. You take a bite, and your body violently wants to reject it.
Every cell is saying no.
Exactly. But instead of gagging or spitting it out, you smile politely and say, wow, this fermented fish is very unique. I think it might be an acquired taste.
A very diplomatic response.
Well, reading that, my immediate instinct is to call their bluff. I have to push back on this.
Okay, push back.
Is this phrase secretly just a polite social shield? Because if I tell a host their food is an acquired taste, aren't they still going to know that I hate it?
They probably suspect it, yeah.
So how does this actually save anyone from being deeply offended?
That is the exact right question to ask, because you are probing the boundaries of the social contract here.
Right, because dinner parties are a minefield.
They are. To answer your question, yes, it is absolutely a social shield, but it is a masterclass in diplomacy because of how it shields.
Okay, explain that.
Think about the alternative. If you tell a host your food is bad or this tastes terrible, you are attacking the food itself.
Right.
Which means you are attacking the host's skill, their culture, and their judgment. It is a direct insult.
Which ruins the dinner party immediately. The tension would be awful.
Exactly. But acquired taste operates on plausible deniability. It is a brilliant linguistic pivot.
How so?
When you say this is an acquired taste, you are completely reframing the dynamic.
Yeah.
You're essentially saying the problem here is not that your food is bad. The food is likely excellent.
Okay.
The problem is simply that my palate lacks the worldly, sophisticated experience required to appreciate it yet.
Oh, wow. So you are taking the blame?
Exactly. You are neutralizing the insult by absorbing the critique yourself.
That's so smart.
It allows the host to maintain their dignity. It allows you to stop eating the fish without seeming rude. And it attributes your dislike to inexperience rather than disgust. It is the ultimate diplomatic defuse.
It's a genius maneuver, even if internally you are screaming, this is fundamentally inedible poison.
Right.
Externally, you are just a humble student of the culinary arts who isn't quite ready for the masterclass. But wait, is it just a polite fiction? Or is there actual science behind acquiring a taste? Because nobody likes black coffee the first time they drink it.
It is far more than a polite fiction. The phrase an acquired taste reflects a profound psychological and biological truth about human adaptation.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Look at the items you listed earlier. Black coffee, dark chocolate, strong cheese, fermented fish. What do they all have in common?
They're strong.
They're largely characterized by intense bitterness, astringency, or the sharp funk of bacterial fermentation.
Right, which are definitely not things a child would ever willingly eat.
And for good reason. Evolutionarily speaking, humans are hardwired from birth to reject bitterness.
Why is that?
In the natural world, bitterness is an alarm bell. It is the flavor profile of alkaloids, which usually means a plant is toxic or poisonous, and fermentation, similarly, signals decay.
So when you take your first sip of black coffee, your ancient lizard brain is literally screaming, spit that out, you are ingesting poison.
Precisely. Your initial biological reaction is completely correct based on survival instincts.
Okay. Wow.
But this is where the magic of the human brain comes in. The concept of an acquired taste is a testament to neuroplasticity.
Okay, big word. Neuroplasticity.
It just means human preferences are not permanently locked in by our primitive biology. Through repeated exposure, and crucially, by observing our peers consuming these things and not dying, we systematically retrain our brains.
It's peer pressure obviating survival instincts.
It genuinely is. We want the caffeine from the coffee, or we want the social status of drinking a sophisticated IPA beer, or we want to bond over a cultural dish.
Right.
So we override the biological alarm bells. And eventually, the brain rewires itself. It stops associating the bitterness with poison and starts associating it with reward.
That is wild.
We transform what was once a repulsive, life-threatening flavor into something we deeply appreciate and actively crave. The idiom captures the incredible reality that much of what we consider good taste is actually a learned, culturally enforced behavior.
That is truly fascinating. We use the phrase to mask our disgust at a dinner party, while simultaneously, on a macro level, it describes how our brains are literally rewiring our survival instincts just so we can fit in socially.
The heavy lifting that one little idiom does is just incredible.
It really is. Now, while navigating a dinner party as a guest requires this intense verbal tact and diplomacy, preparing that dinner is a completely different universe.
A much more chaotic universe.
Exactly. And this provides the perfect transition for us. We are moving away from literal eating now, and we are stepping into the kitchen itself.
Right.
But we aren't looking at it as a place to make food. The source looks at the kitchen as a universal simulator for chaos, planning, and high-stakes corporate strategy.
This is where the metaphors become deeply structural. The kitchen is the ultimate proving ground for cause and effect.
And there are two massive idioms we need to break down here: a recipe for disaster and a half-baked idea.
Let's start with the recipe.
Okay, we all know what a literal recipe is. It's an instruction manual. But idiomatically, a recipe for disaster is a specific combination of people, events, or decisions that are absolutely mathematically guaranteed to result in a catastrophic outcome. And the examples from the text illustrate this perfectly, starting with a very vivid domestic scenario.
Oh, the classic kitchen nightmare. Imagine someone who has absolutely zero culinary experience deciding to cook an incredibly complex, multi-course French romantic dinner to impress a date.
It's a literal recipe for disaster.
Totally.
Yeah.
The timing is off, the oven catches fire, the smoke alarm is blaring, and the dog is eating the ruined dessert off the floor.
Pure, unadulterated chaos.
But what's brilliant is how seamlessly this phrase pivots out of the kitchen and into the boardroom.
Yes, the exact same logic applies.
Right. If you take two high-level managers who despise each other and have completely competing visions, and you force them to co-lead a massive high-stakes project.
That is a recipe for disaster.
Exactly. Or, looking at everyday life, handing the keys of a high-performance sports car to a 16-year-old who just got their license.
Also a recipe for disaster. So why does this work so well for all these situations?
Because the structure of a recipe is what makes the metaphor work. A recipe implies inevitability.
Inevitability.
Yes. If you combine ingredient A and ingredient B, you will always get result C.
It's a formula.
Right. So by calling a business plan a recipe for disaster, you are saying that the failure isn't going to be a surprise or an accident. The failure is baked into the very ingredients of the plan from the start.
Which pairs absolutely flawlessly with our next idiom, a half-baked idea.
They go hand in hand.
Now, this one focuses more on the conceptual stage of planning rather than the execution. If a recipe for disaster is combining the wrong ingredients, a half-baked idea is pulling the right ingredients out of the oven way too early.
The timeline is the critical failure point here.
Exactly. Think about a literal cake. If the recipe says it needs 45 minutes to bake and you take it out after 10 minutes, what do you actually have?
You have a terrible mess.
Right. You have a half-baked cake. It might smell like a cake. The top might even look a little solid, but the inside is just raw, liquid batter.
You cannot slice it, and you certainly cannot serve it to anyone.
So figuratively, a half-baked idea is a project, a business proposal, or a concept that hasn't been given the necessary time to fully develop.
It is structurally incomplete.
And if you try to present it, it will collapse.
The business examples in the text highlight this perfectly. Imagine walking into a venture capital pitch with a revolutionary product idea, but your proposal is entirely missing the financial projections.
Oof.
It's missing the supply chain logistics and the market analysis.
They would laugh you right out of the room. It's a rejected pitch immediately.
Exactly, because the idea was pulled out of the cognitive oven before it had time to set.
When I think about this in a business context, it reminds me of trying to build a house.
How so?
Well, presenting a half-baked idea to an investor is like trying to move all your heavy oak furniture into a brand new house while the concrete foundation is still completely wet.
Oh, that's a great visual.
Right. From the street that looks great, the walls are painted, the roof is on. But the second you put any real operational weight on that structure, the entire thing is going to instantly sink into the mud and collapse.
Because the foundational base wasn't allowed the necessary time to solidify.
Exactly.
I really like the structural weight of that analogy.
Yeah.
Because it mirrors exactly why the kitchen, and specifically baking, is such an airtight template for analyzing corporate strategy.
Yeah, baking specifically.
We have to separate cooking from baking here. Cooking is often an art. You can improvise, add a little salt, paste it, adjust it.
Sure, you can wing it.
But baking is a rigid, unforgiving science. It is an exercise in chemistry.
Right. If you were making a soup and forget the carrots, it's still soup. If you were baking a cake and you forget the baking powder,
You've created a warm brick.
a warm break, exactly.
Baking operates on strict, non-negotiable laws of cause and effect. It requires precise measurements, exact timing, and specific thermal conditions.
You can't cheat the process.
You cannot negotiate with a cake batter. You cannot rush yeast. If any single element of the process is compromised, the chemistry of the entire system fails.
Wow.
And the reason we use these baking metaphors for project management is that human beings instinctively understand the physics of a kitchen.
Even if we don't bake ourselves.
Exactly. Even if you don't know how to bake, you intuitively know that raw dough plus insufficient heat equals a terrible mess.
Right.
We map that tangible, universally understood physical failure onto abstract business plans because it instantly communicates that ignoring proper processes will yield a catastrophic result. You cannot unbake a bad plan.
You cannot unbake a bad plan. That is a terrifying reality for anyone who has ever managed a project.
It's a sobering thought.
But let's follow that thread to its logical, miserable conclusion. Let's say you don't realize your foundation is wet. You don't realize your idea is half-baked.
Oh no.
You confidently march into that boardroom, you present that raw, messy plan to the executives, and your recipe for disaster actually plays out in real time.
The nightmare scenario.
The project collapses. The venture capitalists walk out. What happens next?
The aftermath.
Exactly. This brings us to the painful aftermath. We are transitioning from the arrogance of the planning phase into the deeply visceral, profoundly uncomfortable messiness of public failure.
And I would argue that the idioms we use to describe this phase are some of the most highly charged and uncomfortable phrases in the English language.
Uncomfortable is definitely the word. When you fail publicly, you don't just lose money or a project, you lose face.
Which is often much worse.
And our research explores this lingering discomfort through two incredibly vivid idioms: having egg on your face and eating humble pie.
Let's tackle the egg first.
Okay. Idiomatically, to have egg in your face means to look incredibly foolish, to look incompetent, or to be deeply publicly embarrassed because of an obvious, undeniable mistake you made.
The definition is straightforward, but the literal imagery is what gives this phrase its unique, lingering power.
Oh, the imagery is brutal. The scenario outlined in the text asks you to imagine that you are trying to eat a soft-boiled or messy fried egg.
Okay, and right as you take a bite, the bright yellow yolk bursts and explodes all over your face, dripping down your chin.
So messy.
And this happens right in front of a massive crowd of people who are watching you.
It's the ultimate public faux pas.
And what's fascinating is the specific types of people the source focuses on for its examples. It doesn't give examples of everyday people making small mistakes. It focuses on high-status individuals failing spectacularly.
The element of status is crucial to the mechanics of the idiom.
Right. Look at the list from the material. A seasoned, arrogant politician who goes on television, guarantees an easy victory, and then loses the election by a historic landslide margin.
He has egg on his face.
Exactly. Or a billionaire CEO who throws a massive theatrical press conference for a highly anticipated product launch, and the product completely malfunctions on stage.
She has egg on her face.
Or a brash sports coach who spends the entire week publicly criticizing the opposing team, calling them weak, and then his own team gets absolutely demolished on Sunday.
He definitely has egg on his face. Or, tying it back to our earlier kitchen disaster, the guy who acts like a master chef for his romantic date burns everything and has to shamefully order a pizza.
In every single one of those scenarios, an illusion of control has been shattered.
Exactly. The facade drops. But here's the question I really want to dig into with you.
Go for it.
Why an egg? Why are our metaphors for professional ruin and social failure so incredibly focused on being physically, stickily messy?
It's a very specific choice.
Right. Why not just say the CEO's plan failed? Why invoke this very specific image of a bursting egg yolk?
Because it speaks to the profound tension between the manufactured dignity we try to project to the world and the inescapable, vulnerable reality of our physical bodies.
No, that's deep.
Think about those examples. The CEO, the politician, the arrogant head coach. These are figures of ultimate authority.
Right.
They spend immense amounts of time, money, and energy building an impenetrable facade of control, competence, and superiority.
They wear expensive suits, they stand behind podiums, they curate their image.
Exactly. They desperately want to be seen as existing above the chaotic, messy fray of normal human life.
They want to be perceived as gods, essentially. Untouchable.
Precisely. They want to be untouchable. But what is a bursting egg yolk?
It's breakfast.
It is pure, unhideable, slapstick physical comedy.
Oh.
Think about the physical properties of egg yolk. It is bright, fluorescent yellow. It is incredibly sticky. It stains instantly. It is utterly impossible to ignore.
You can't just wipe it away and pretend it didn't happen.
No. So when someone's ego gets too massive, when their arrogance completely outpaces their actual ability, language uses this metaphor to violently drag them back down to earth.
It grounds them.
It does more than ground them. It humiliatingly humanizes them.
Wow.
You can be wearing a bespoke $10,000 suit. You can be standing in front of a board of directors. But if you have metaphorical bright yellow yolk dripping off your nose and chin, your authority is instantly and completely punctured.
No one can take you seriously.
Right. The metaphor effectively weaponizes physical messiness against abstract arrogance. It reminds everyone in the room that beneath the title and the suit, this person is just a clumsy human being who couldn't even eat breakfast without ruining their shirt.
Weaponizing physical messiness against abstract arrogance. That is a brilliant distillation.
It's exactly what the language is doing.
And it perfectly sets up the sequence of events. Because when that arrogance is punctured, when the CEO or the politician is standing there exposed, covered in that metaphorical egg yolk, the ordeal isn't over.
No, the hardest part is just beginning.
They still have to deal with the fallout. They have to face the crowd. And that brings us to the necessary consequence of having egg on your face, which is the terrifying prospect of eating humble pie.
If the egg is the exposure of the failure, the pie is the agonizing process of atonement.
And the breakdown of this idiom in our notes is so revealing. Let's look at the core word, humble.
It's an important word.
The text defines humble as having a modest, perhaps even low estimate of your own importance. It is the absolute eradication of arrogance.
Yes. So to eat humble pie means that you are forced to completely swallow your pride, openly admit your devastating failure, and apologize.
And crucially, this usually has to happen in public, in front of the people you previously alienated.
And there is a very distinct, almost gleeful point made in the source here. Eating humble pie does not taste good.
It is notoriously the most bitter dish on the metaphorical menu.
Absolutely.
But to really appreciate the gravity of this idiom, we have to look at the mechanics of the metaphor again. Eating humble pie requires the physical, biological act of swallowing.
Right, you can't just chew it. It has to go down.
Exactly. Now think about pride. Pride is a completely abstract concept. It lives entirely in the mind. It's an emotional state.
Sure.
But language doesn't let the apology stay in the abstract realm. It forces a physical confrontation. Language links the destruction of that pride, what psychologists might call ego death, to the heavy biological act of digestion.
Oh, that's dense. You created the half-baked idea, you generated the spectacular mistake, you got the egg on your face, and now you must physically ingest the humiliation you caused.
You literally have to choke it down.
Yes, you have to swallow it, and you have to let it sit in your stomach. It takes the fleeting abstract concept of saying, I'm sorry, and makes it feel weighty, physically demanding, and deeply uncomfortable.
It makes the apology a physical burden that the offender has to carry inside them.
Exactly.
It is so visceral. We have moved from the extreme physical panic of hunger at the very start of our conversation all the way to this heavy, sickening feeling of digesting your own social failure.
It's a full spectrum of human experience.
It really is. But the human experience isn't exclusively about failing and apologizing.
Thankfully.
Often we are proactively trying to maneuver, to influence, to improve our standing, or to better ourselves.
Which brings us to the final category.
Yes. That brings us to our final section, where we pivot away from the aftermath of a disaster and look at how we use food metaphors to intentionally manipulate other people and ultimately to nourish our own minds.
This is a fascinating shift, because this is where the concept of food becomes entirely transactional.
Exactly. The final set of idioms we are looking at covers both social manipulation and high-level intellectual growth. We have two phrases to unpack here: buttering someone up and food for thought.
Let's start with the manipulation, because it is universally relatable.
For sure, buttering someone up. Idiomatically, this means to aggressively flatter someone, to give them an overly generous, almost suspicious amount of praise and compliments.
Specifically because you have a hidden agenda.
Right. You either want a massive favor from them, or you need them to forgive you for something you did.
And once again, the literal explanation provided gives the idiom its texture.
The texture is everything here. The imagery asks you to think about a dry, hard piece of toast.
Very unappetizing.
Right. If you try to eat it plain, it's rough, it scratches your throat, it's unpleasant. But if you take warm, smooth, rich butter and spread a thick layer over that toast, it softens it up.
It makes it palatable.
It makes it easy to consume. And the workplace examples we have perfectly illustrate this dynamic.
The office environment is the natural habitat for buttering someone up.
It absolutely is. We have the classic example of Mark, who suddenly starts bringing artisanal coffee and expensive donuts to his boss every single morning.
Mark is suspicious.
Right, and complimenting her leadership style out of nowhere, because he is definitely trying to butter her up before performance reviews. He's hoping to ask for a massive promotion.
And of course he is.
Or the university student who stays after class every single day, constantly flattering a tough professor's lectures, desperately hoping to butter them up for a better grade on the final exam.
The intention in both scenarios is entirely self-serving. There is no genuine affection there.
Right, and when I was thinking about the mechanics of this, it feels exactly like greasing the gears of a rusty, stubborn machine.
How do you mean?
Let's say you know that asking your boss for a 20% raise is going to cause intense friction.
Oh, yes.
The machine is going to screech and halt. So you strategically apply this thick, greasy layer of flattery, the butter, to artificially reduce that friction before you ask the machine to do the heavy lifting of giving you more money.
That is a remarkably accurate analogy, and it highlights the fascinating duality we see in this final section.
What's the duality?
Let's look at how food is being used here. In the case of buttering someone up, the butter acts merely as a social lubricant. The butter itself lacks any real nutritional substance.
It's just fat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And flattery lacks substance. It's a purely transactional tool used to engineer a specific outcome.
It's just a shiny coating over an ulterior motive.
Exactly. It is a surface-level application used to manipulate the environment. But then, on the very next page, the research pivots to our final idiom food for thought.
Which feels completely different.
It is. And in doing so, it elevates the concept of food from a greasy social lubricant to the highest possible intellectual plane.
Let's define that one clearly before we unpack it. Food for thought refers to information, profound advice, or deeply complex ideas that are worth thinking about seriously and critically over a long period of time.
It requires mental chewing.
Right. And the examples given are great. Imagine a brilliant professor presenting a revolutionary, complex sociological theory at the very end of a long lecture, leaving the students staring at their notebooks.
That theory is food for thought.
Or watching a heavy, densely researched documentary about the future of climate change that completely alters your perspective and stays with you all weekend.
That documentary is food for thought.
Exactly.
Look at the incredible conceptual leap the language is making here. We all know that the physical human body requires literal calories, vitamins, and nutrients to grow, heal, and survive.
That is basic biology.
But the idiom food for thought takes that biological reality and equates the abstract, invisible human mind to a physical stomach.
Wow. The brain literally needs to digest the concepts.
Precisely. Think about how we consume media. You don't just passively hear a complex theory, you consume it.
You take it in.
You take it in, you break it down to its component parts, you critically evaluate it, you extract the intellectual nutrients, the truth, the wisdom from it, and then it becomes a permanent part of your cognitive structure, your worldview.
Just like calcium becomes part of your bones.
Exactly. This idiom is the ultimate proof of our thesis today. It proves that human beings view intellectual development, the pursuit of truth, and the sharing of profound ideas as being just as vital, just as fundamental to our evolutionary survival as hunting for physical calories.
That is profound.
We cannot separate our intellectual abstract lives from our physical biology. We feed our bodies to survive, but we feed our minds to evolve.
We feed our bodies to survive, but we feed our minds to evolve. What a phenomenal way to frame it.
It really wraps up the whole concept.
It does. Okay, let's take a deep breath and look back at the massive journey we've just been on today.
It's been a lot to digest.
Yes, it has. We started with the sheer primal panic of an empty stomach, realizing we could eat a horse, and firing that verbal flare gun to get the group's attention.
We learned how to evaluate authenticity over marketing by walking past the shiny tourist traps to find the hidden hole in the wall.
And we explored the Pavlovian physiological response of a mouth-watering meal.
Then we examined the evolutionary biology behind bitterness and how we use neuroplasticity and the polite social shield of an acquired taste to navigate tricky dinner parties without insulting our hosts.
We watched the kitchen operate as a ruthless, mathematically precise simulator for cause and effect, where pulling a half-baked idea out of the oven too early inevitably becomes a catastrophic recipe for disaster in the boardroom.
We witnessed the brutal puncturing of executive arrogance, watching politicians and CEOs end up with bright yellow egg on their face.
Which forced them to physically choke down the heavy, bitter weight of humble pie.
And finally, we explored the transactional nature of the workplace, observing how people use flattery to butter up their bosses while simultaneously seeking out profound food for thought to nourish their own intellectual growth.
I think the analysis we've explored today has overwhelmingly proven its premise. Mastering these advanced idioms is not just about sounding sophisticated in a meeting or checking words off a vocabulary list.
No, it's much deeper than that.
It is about understanding the fundamental architecture of human thought. It is about seeing how we meticulously map the incredibly physical, deeply sensory, and sometimes embarrassingly messy experience of dining onto our most complex business strategies, our deepest social humiliations, and our highest intellectual aspirations.
And I think it's important to end on a note of practicality here.
Absolutely.
The true value of unpacking all this psychology and linguistics comes from application. To you, the listener, the key to moving from passive understanding to active, native-level fluency is integration.
Right, you have to actually use it.
Don't just memorize the definitions. Start actively sprinkling these phrases into your daily vocabulary. Connect them to your own life. Identify the half-baked projects at your own job.
We all have them.
Remember the last time you had to eat humble pie after a mistake? Recognize when a colleague is trying to butter you up. When you attach these visceral idioms to your own personal experiences, they cease to be vocabulary words and become powerful cognitive tools.
That is how you bridge the gap and truly master the language. It takes the theory out of the textbook and puts it into practice.
Exactly.
But as we officially wrap up this deep dive, there is one final, somewhat provocative thought that wasn't explicitly analyzed in the research, but it has been undeniably lurking beneath every single theme we've discussed today.
Oh, I'm curious.
And I want you, the listener, to really mull this over on your commute or during your workout.
Okay, let's hear it.
Think about what it truly says about human nature that our absolute go-to universal expressions for high-stakes corporate failure, devastating political humiliation, and manipulative social maneuvering phrases like having egg on your face, being forced to eat humble pie, or calculatingly buttering someone up are all derived directly from our most primitive, primal, animalistic survival activity. Eating.
Right.
Does this linguistic pattern suggest that deep down in the oldest, most subconscious parts of our brains, we don't actually see a difference between a boardroom and a jungle?
Yeah.
Does it mean our minds actually view navigating complex office politics, desperately climbing the social ladder and fighting to maintain our status as being just as life or death, and just as biologically urgent as finding our next literal meal? We'll leave you to chew on that. You know, usually when we talk about learning a language, especially at an advanced level, there is this, this expectation of mechanical precision.
Right, like it's a science or something.
Exactly. It feels almost like engineering. You have a thought, you look up the exact corresponding word in the dictionary, and you just plug it into the sentence to build your meaning.
Yeah, snapping together puzzle pieces.
Right. But step away from the textbook and into the actual, living world of native-level fluency, and suddenly that precision machinery is completely broken.
Oh, totally shattered.
We are looking at a linguistic landscape that is, well, honestly, it's delightfully messy. It's not a laboratory, it's a kitchen.
I love that analogy. A messy kitchen.
Yeah. And today, we're going to look at the incredibly visceral, unstructured way English uses food to explain our deepest psychological anxieties and, professional failures.
Which is such a wild concept when you really step back and look at it.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this. If you are listening right now, you likely already have a strong, robust, intermediate vocabulary.
You know how to build a sentence, right?
Exactly. But our mission today is to bridge the gap into the rich, authentic, C2 level English used in real daily life.
Which is a huge leap.
It is. So to do this, we are going to extract the absolute key takeaways from a fascinating linguistic framework that categorizes advanced English idioms, specifically focusing on how we use the vocabulary of digestion to describe the human experience.
And, it is the absolute definition of diagnostic muddy waters, when you are trying to understand native speakers.
Oh, for sure, because they aren't using literal words anymore.
Right. Suddenly they aren't using precise mechanical words. They're using physical imagery to describe completely invisible, abstract concepts.
Which can be super frustrating for learners.
Exactly. And to provide a little context for what we are looking at today, we're moving past the introductory level of these metaphors.
Right. This is the advanced stuff.
Yeah, we aren't talking about simple phrases like having a half-baked idea. We are diving into much heavier, much more complex themes.
Real deep in.
We are analyzing how language handles the tension of modern privilege, crippling anxiety, impossible human desires, and, well, ultimate unvarnished truths.
Wow.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is how we map the primitive onto the abstract. We take something as incredibly basic as chewing or boiling or preserving a vegetable, and we use it to explain complex macroeconomics and human psychology.
It really is wild when you stop and think about it.
It is.
And the goal here is that by the end of this deep dive, you are not just going to understand these idioms on a surface, like definition level.
Right, you're going to feel them.
Exactly. You're going to see the hidden logic behind them. You are going to physically understand what it feels like to be trapped in sour vinegar.
Oh, that's a visceral image.
Right. And you are going to know the exact thermodynamic mechanics of boiling away the noise of a long, frustrating meeting.
I think we've all been in a few of those meetings.
Way too many. You are going to feel the weight of these words.
Yeah.
So let's start with the foundation of human society, which is the economics of survival.
The absolute baseline.
Yeah, before we can afford to have complex psychological problems, we have to stay alive. We have to look at labor versus privilege.
It's the perfect starting point. In the modern world, survival basically means earning a living.
Right, paying the bills.
And the English language draws a very sharp, almost brutal contrast between the daily struggle of financial survival and the reality of extreme unearned wealth.
So let's look at the baseline of earning a living first.
Let's do it. The classic idiom for the person who earns the primary income to support a family is the one who has to bring home the bacon.
I want to pause right there because I think it's really easy to just write that off as a quirky synonym for making money.
Oh, definitely.
But why bacon? I mean, why not bring home the bread or bring home the apples?
That's a great question.
If we think about the history of human agriculture, meat, specifically salted, preserved meat like bacon, was the ultimate high-value, high-calorie survival resource.
Yeah, that historical context is essential. Meat implies a hunt, or at the very least, significant agricultural labor.
It wasn't easy to get.
Not at all. It is calorie dense. Having it meant your family was actually going to survive the winter.
Right.
So when we use this phrase today, it equates the abstract concept of financial survival, getting a direct deposit, paying the mortgage, handling the electric bill, with the literal physical fuel required for survival.
It really strips away the sterile nature of modern banking.
Exactly. It reminds us that, at our core, we work to eat.
And there is a profoundly gritty, hardworking nature to this idiom. You have to literally work at home.
Yes, the effort is baked right into the verb.
You have to go out into the unforgiving world, expend massive amounts of physical or mental effort, secure the resource, and then physically carry it back over the threshold of your door to your family.
It's an exhausting visual.
It really is. I mean, if you are commuting 2 hours a day, dealing with office politics, and working a 60-hour week, you aren't just passively receiving a salary, you are out in the hunting grounds.
It frames the modern workplace as a deeply primitive environment, and it usually implies a specific division of labor which reflects its slightly older cultural origins.
Right, because usually only one person is bringing it home in the context of the idiom.
Yeah, you often hear it used to describe a singular provider. For instance, if one partner is taking a year off to stay home with a newborn, the other partner might say, well, I guess I'm working overtime to bring home the bacon.
Which makes sense.
It's an acknowledgement of taking on the sheer, heavy burden of survival for the entire family unit.
Which is an incredibly noble, respected position in society. If you bring home the bacon, you are viewed with a sense of dignity because your survival is tied to your sweat and your effort.
Absolutely.
But this makes the linguistic contrast with unearned wealth so incredibly jarring. Let's look at what happens when we strip the effort away completely.
Oh, the flip side of the coin.
Yeah, we move from the gritty effort of the hunt to the concept of absolute privilege, where someone has an opportunity handed to them on a silver platter.
This is a massive shift in imagery. We completely leave the hunting ground and enter the palace.
Exactly.
This idiom perfectly encapsulates the modern concept of privilege by highlighting the total absence of exertion.
I want you, the listener, to visualize this. Think about the physical mechanics of this idiom. A platter is a large, flat serving tray.
Right.
And it's not made of wood or clay, it's made of silver. Silver is a precious metal that requires constant polishing to prevent it from tarnishing.
It requires a lot of maintenance.
Yes. So the idiom doesn't just imply wealth, it implies an entire unseen staff of servants maintaining the illusion of perfection.
Precisely. If something is handed to you on a silver platter, you are positioned as the monarch at the table.
Just sitting there waiting.
You are sitting completely passively. You haven't broken a sweat. You haven't tracked mud into the house from hunting.
Not a speck of dirt on you.
Right. The desired object, whether that is a promotion, a massive inheritance, or a rare opportunity, is brought directly to you.
The delivery mechanism is what matters.
Yes, the vehicle of delivery, that polished silver, emphasizes the luxury and the totally unearned nature of the transaction.
Let's map this onto a modern workplace scenario. Imagine a highly competitive corporate environment.
Okay, setting the scene.
You've got a team of analysts who have been grinding for 5 years, bringing home the bacon, trying to earn a promotion to management.
Doing the hard work.
And then the CEO's son graduates from college with a mediocre degree and zero experience.
Oh, I can see where this is going.
He walks into the building on Monday morning, and he is just given the management position.
Wow.
He didn't earn it through late nights, he didn't pitch brilliant ideas, and he didn't outwork anyone. It was just handed to him on a silver platter.
And that scenario really highlights the deep resentment baked into the usage of this phrase.
Resentment is the perfect word for it.
When native speakers use this idiom, it is almost never a compliment.
Oh, never.
It is universally used as a critique of injustice. It points out a fundamental imbalance in the physics of effort versus reward.
We respect the person carrying the bacon, but we fundamentally resent the person staring at the silver platter.
Exactly.
So this naturally raises a terrifying question. What happens when the person staring at the silver platter has to actually perform?
That's when things fall apart.
Right. Let's stick with that lazy, unqualified CEO's son. He didn't earn his management position, which means he hasn't developed the intellectual muscles required to do the job.
He has no calluses.
None. So inevitably, he makes a massive, catastrophic mistake that jeopardizes the entire department.
And suddenly, everyone is in trouble.
Exactly. Suddenly, the entire team is trapped in a disaster. We are no longer dealing with external economics. We are forced inward into the mental strain of crisis management. We have entered the culinary crucible.
I love that phrase, the culinary crucible. And the first stage of that crucible is the realization that you were trapped.
Yeah, that sinking feeling.
When that department goes into free fall because of a terrible decision, the linguistic framework describes them as being in a pickle.
In a pickle.
Yes. Which represents a tricky, incredibly uncomfortable dilemma that requires a highly clever solution to escape.
We all know what a pickle is, basically a cucumber that has been preserved. But I think to really grasp the genius of this idiom, we have to look past the vegetable itself.
Right, the vegetable isn't the main point.
Exactly. We have to focus on the environment it exists inside. You have to map the physical reality of the jar onto a workplace disaster.
If we look at the chemistry of pickling, it is a really aggressive environment.
Very harsh.
It requires submerging the vegetable in a high concentration solution of acidic vinegar and salt water.
And then sealing it inside a glass jar.
Right.
Imagine physically sitting inside that jar.
Oh, that sounds awful.
It is. You are surrounded by sour, acidic liquid. It burns your eyes. You can't breathe. And most importantly, the lid is screwed on tight.
You are experiencing complete psychological claustrophobia.
Yes. When you make a massive mistake at work, say you accidentally delete the master financial spreadsheet and the backup servers fail, you can't just walk away from your desk.
You're stuck there.
You are soaking in the acid of that mistake. You are trapped inside the environment of your own error.
It perfectly captures the sensory experience of a dilemma.
It really does.
A dilemma isn't a problem you observe from a distance. It's a problem that encompasses you entirely.
And crucially, a pickle jar has a lid.
Ah, yes. The lid.
You need outside help or a very specific tool to break the vacuum seal and unscrew the lid to escape.
Think about an everyday frustration, like locking your keys inside your running car.
Oh, the worst.
You are standing in the freezing rain in a parking lot, looking through the glass window at your keys, dangling in the ignition.
Just staring at them.
You are trapped in the scenario. You are deeply uncomfortable, you are in a pickle, and you need a clever solution, like a wire hanger or a locksmith, to pop the seal.
But the pickle jar implies a passive trap. The car isn't actively fighting you. The locked door is just a static obstacle.
That's a good point.
What happens when the problem you are facing is actively, dynamically resisting your attempts to solve it?
That's a whole different level.
When you encounter an obstacle that has built armor around itself,
That shifts the dynamic completely.
you aren't just trying to unscrew a lid anymore, you are trying to break through a defense mechanism. And this brings us to a brilliant idiom for describing incredibly complex problems or profoundly difficult people.
And that is being a hard nut to crack.
A hard nut to crack.
The underlying logic here relies on the evolutionary biology of a walnut.
Okay, let's talk about walnuts.
Nature designed the thick, corrugated shell of a walnut with a singular purpose.
To protect the inside.
Exactly, to protect the core, the meat of the nut, from outside predators. It is designed to withstand immense environmental pressure.
I want to play devil's advocate for a second here.
Sure, go for it.
If we are just talking about something that is hard to open, why use a nut? I mean, why not say that client is a locked vault or that software bug is a titanium safe?
That's a really great distinction to make.
Right, because a safe is hard to open too.
It is. But a vault or a safe implies a manufactured artificial lock with a specific combination.
Oh, I see.
It implies there is a straightforward mechanical key. But a nut is organic. Its resistance is natural, and crucially, it's uneven.
Uneven resistance, yeah.
If you try to open a tough walnut with your bare hands,
Yeah.
you can squeeze with all your might, and the only thing that will happen is that your palms will bruise.
You can't just power through it.
No, you cannot brute force your way through organic resistance. You have to find the exact right angle of leverage, or you have to apply a specialized tool like a nutcracker.
And when we map that onto human behavior, it is so painfully accurate.
It really is.
Think about a high-stakes professional negotiation. You've been sitting across the table from a prospective client for 3 months.
Just going back and forth.
Yeah, and you know they want to sign the contract, but they absolutely refuse to reveal what their actual budget is or what their underlying fears are.
They are holding all their cards close to the chest.
Exactly. They are deflecting your questions, they are using corporate jargon, they are changing the subject.
They've built a shell.
A thick one.
The client's true motivations, the actual bottom line, that is the meat of the nut inside.
That's what you're trying to get to.
But they have evolved a tough exterior of silence and misdirection to protect themselves from being taken advantage of.
So true.
As the negotiator, you are constantly probing that shell, looking for a structural weakness, trying to crack it to get to the truth. And it is a deeply exhausting process.
It drains your energy completely.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether it's a massive bug in your code that keeps crashing your system without throwing an error message, or a client who won't give you a straight answer, dealing with a hard nut to crack forces you to expend massive amounts of intellectual leverage.
And what happens when we exhaust ourselves against these impossible problems?
We get tired.
We don't just walk away and go to sleep. We internalize the frustration.
Oh, yeah. We take it with us.
We enter a very specific, intense psychological state. We start stewing over it.
Stewing over it. This is perhaps one of the most psychologically accurate and devastating idioms in the entire English language.
I agree completely.
To understand why it works so flawlessly, we have to look at the thermodynamics of making a culinary stew.
Yes, let's look at the science of the kitchen.
A stew is not a quick meal.
No, it takes all day.
It is a thick concoction of tough meats, root vegetables, and broth. And the critical variable is the application of heat.
Heat is everything here.
A stew cooks incredibly slowly over a very low fire for a prolonged period of time.
Now, hold on. Let's really analyze the choice of cooking method here.
Okay, let's do it.
When I am furious about a problem, let's say a colleague stole credit for my idea in a meeting, I feel hot. I feel like I'm burning.
Right, you're enraged.
So why does the language use stewing? Why not say, I spent the weekend frying over it, or I was burning over his comment? Burning sounds so much more intense.
That raises a vital point about the duration and the expression of human anger.
How so?
Burning is a flash fire. It is immediate, explosive, and usually highly visible.
Like a burst of flames.
Exactly. If you are burning with anger, you are probably standing up, waving your arms, and yelling at the person who stole your idea. The energy is expelled outward.
Okay, that makes sense.
But stewing represents a completely different emotional mechanic. It is the slow, prolonged, anxious rumination where negative emotions simmer internally.
Ah, so it's about trapping the heat inside the vessel.
Exactly. When you are stewing, the lid is on the pot. You aren't exploding, you are forcing the heat inward.
Just trapping all that negative energy.
Think about the tough meat in a stew. It takes hours of low, constant thermal energy to break down the connective tissue.
It's a slow breakdown.
When you stew over a problem, you are slowly breaking down the details of the event in your mind. You are turning the memory over and over, letting the resentment quietly bubble just beneath the surface for days.
I think every single person listening to this knows exactly what that Sunday night anxiety loop feels like.
Oh, the Sunday scaries.
Picture this. It's Friday afternoon, and you give a big presentation. Your boss gives you a mildly harsh, unfair critique in front of the team.
Painful.
The meeting ends. It is over. But instead of leaving it in the conference room, you take that critique home.
You put it in the pot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Saturday morning, you turn on the low heat.
Yep.
You replay his tone of voice. You replay the look on your coworkers' faces. By Sunday night, you have spent 48 hours just letting that single moment of criticism simmer in your brain.
Just going over and over it.
You haven't yelled at anyone, but you are utterly exhausted. You are stewing over it.
It is a debilitating way to process emotion.
Truly debilitating.
And the profound tragedy of stewing is that it is entirely useless.
Completely non-productive.
The energy you expend simmering those negative emotions does not travel backward in time to change the presentation that already occurred. It only degrades your current mental state.
So we have to find a way to break the loop.
We do. If stewing is useless, how do we practically pivot away from this simmering negativity?
That's the million-dollar question.
This transitions us perfectly from the internal anxiety of making mistakes into the external reality of how we should process failure.
And then how we manage our expectations when things actually go right.
Exactly. Let's move into a phase we can call spills and sweets.
I like that. Spills and sweets.
The necessary first step in breaking the cycle of rumination is radically accepting the nature of failure.
You have to accept it before you can move on.
And the language provides one of the most famous, pragmatic proverbs in existence to force this acceptance. There is no use crying over spilled milk.
Oh, a classic. We hear this from the time we are toddlers.
We do, but we rarely pause to look at the brutal physical reality of the metaphor. Let's map it out.
Okay, let's visualize it.
You are holding a glass of milk. You bump the table, the glass tips, and the milk spills across the kitchen floor.
A standard accident.
What's fascinating here is the sheer unforgiving logic of fluid dynamics.
Fluid dynamics, right.
The milk is a liquid. The moment it leaves the glass, it disperses. It seeps into the floorboards. It picks up dust and dirt.
It changes state, essentially.
It is fundamentally altered and irretrievable. And the idiom forces us to confront a hard physical truth.
Which is?
The biological act of crying, shedding tears of regret or frustration possesses absolutely zero mechanical force.
Wow, put that way is pretty harsh.
Your tears cannot reverse gravity. They cannot purify the milk, and they cannot put the liquid back into the glass. The mistake is a permanent alteration of reality.
I want to push back on the emotional callousness of this just a bit.
Go ahead.
Because sometimes when you suffer a massive professional or personal failure, you need to cry.
Oh, for sure.
You need to process the shock of the loss. I mean, if you lose a massive client, it hurts. You can't just be a robot.
That is a very human response, and the idiom doesn't necessarily forbid the emotion.
Okay, so what does it do?
What it critiques is the utility of dwelling in that emotion indefinitely.
Ah, the dwelling on it.
It acknowledges the spill, but it demands a transition. If crying won't put the milk back, the idiom forces a pivot toward pragmatism. What is the only logical next step?
You have to walk to the closet, get a mop, and wipe the floor.
Right. It's a call to action masked as a statement of comfort.
That's a great way to phrase it.
If you fail a massive certification exam, you can cry for an hour. But then you have to acknowledge the milk is on the floor, the grade is recorded.
It's done.
The only pragmatic action is to open the textbook and study harder for the retake.
Or if you permanently delete a massive project file, the tears won't rewrite the code.
Nope, they weren't.
You have to sit down and type it out again.
Exactly. It breaks the cycle of stewing by demanding physical forward momentum.
Which is so much healthier.
But let's look at the other side of the coin. Let's say you mop up the milk, you study harder, you retake the exam, and this time you don't just pass.
Yes,
You get a perfect score. How does the language handle the positive spectrum of human experience? How do we conceptualize ultimate success?
We move from the spilled milk on the floor to the dessert course on the table.
The best part of the meal.
Yes. We use the phrases, the icing on the cake, or the closely related cherry on top.
These idioms describe a very specific type of joy.
They do. They describe a scenario where the foundational event is already magnificent, but the universe hands you an unexpected, phenomenal bonus.
But here is the critical load-bearing detail of this metaphor. The underlying cake must already be structurally sound and delicious by itself.
That is a crucial distinction.
Think about the culinary purpose of icing. If you bake a terrible, dry, burnt cake, putting a thick layer of sugary frosting over it, it doesn't miraculously transform it into a great dessert.
No, it's still a bad cake underneath.
Exactly. It just masks a failure. For the idiom to function correctly, the base achievement must be a complete standalone triumph.
Let's bring this into the listener's daily reality.
Good idea. Think about your own life.
Passing your incredibly difficult C2 English proficiency exam is the cake. That's a massive achievement. You would be perfectly thrilled if the story ended right there. But then, 2 days later, you find out that your passing score automatically qualifies you for a $5,000 international scholarship.
Oh, wow.
The scholarship is the icing on the cake. It elevates a 10 out of 10 experience to an 11 out of 10.
The baseline is complete happiness.
Right. Another example. You spend months interviewing and finally land your dream job at a fantastic tech company.
That is the cake.
But on your first day, HR walks you past the cubicles and opens the door to a private corner office with a window overlooking the city.
Now that is the cherry on top. The bonus is strictly additive.
It doesn't make the job, it just makes a great job even better.
However, there is a dangerous psychological side effect to experiencing this level of success.
Oh, there always is.
When we start getting the cake and the icing and the cherry, our baseline expectations begin to warp.
We get greedy.
Human greed kicks in. We start demanding perfection in every aspect of our lives, which introduces a profound paradox.
And the language captures this impossible desire with the incredibly famous warning, you can't have your cake and eat it too.
This specific idiom is notorious for confusing non-native speakers.
Oh, incredibly confusing.
And quite frankly, the confusion is entirely logical. The immediate thought process of a learner is, wait a minute, if I bought the cake and it is my cake, why on earth am I forbidden from eating it?
Right. The entire biological purpose of a cake is to be consumed.
It sounds like a ridiculous restriction until you unpack the deep philosophical tension underneath it.
It's deeper than baked goods.
It really is. The idiom is really exploring the conflict between object permanence and the act of consumption.
Let's visualize it.
Okay, picture this. You go to a master baker and you purchase a stunning 3-tier wedding cake decorated with intricate sugar flowers. It is a work of art.
Just gorgeous.
As long as it sits on the pedestal in the center of your dining room, you retain possession of it.
It's yours.
You can admire its beauty, you can show it off to your guests, you have the status of owning it.
But the moment you decide to experience the flavor, the moment you take a knife, slice into the architecture and eat it, the object ceases to exist in its perfect form.
It's ruined visually.
It goes into your stomach and is destroyed. You cannot do both simultaneously.
Right.
You cannot retain the pristine, unblemished object for endless admiration, experience the fleeting, destructive pleasure of consuming it.
The idiom brilliantly exposes the unreasonable human desire to have two mutually exclusive realities exist in the same space.
It's a paradox.
It is the desire to have the absolute best of both worlds without making a single sacrifice.
If we look at real-world applications, you see this tension everywhere in adult life.
Oh, everywhere. Think about a professional who is deeply unhappy.
Okay.
They desperately want the massive mid-six-figure salary and stock options of a Fortune 500 CEO, but simultaneously they demand the stress-free, log-off-at-5, no weekend emails lifestyle of a junior part-time employee.
You just can't have both.
The astronomical salary requires the sacrifice of your personal time and your peace of mind.
And the relaxed lifestyle requires the sacrifice of the massive paycheck.
Exactly. You can't have your cake and eat it too.
Or consider the classic real estate dilemma.
Oh, this is a great one.
A young couple wants to buy a house. They demand to live right in the vibrant epicenter of a massive, bustling metropolis with world-class restaurants on their street.
Sounds amazing.
But they also demand a sprawling, cheap, perfectly silent 3-acre garden with no neighbors.
Good luck finding that.
Those two realities are geographically and economically incompatible. City centers are loud and wildly expensive. Silent acreage is in the rural suburbs.
The idiom is a harsh teacher.
Very harsh.
It forces the listener to realize that compromise is the inescapable law of the universe.
You have to give something up.
You must choose whether to look at the beautiful cake or experience the joy of eating it. You have to make a choice.
It is genuinely amazing how much philosophical weight is carried by a simple baked good.
It really is. I mean, we've traversed an incredible amount of conceptual ground here.
We really have.
We started with the gritty physical labor of hunting bacon. We got trapped in the claustrophobia of pickle jars.
We exhausted ourselves trying to crack organic walnuts.
We stewed in our own anxious heat.
We accepted the fluid dynamics of spilled milk.
And we wrestled with the impossible paradoxes of cake.
That's a lot of food.
And balancing all these sprawling complexities of human behavior, the economics, the mistakes, the impossible desires, can be utterly exhausting to explain in real time.
It takes a lot of words.
Right. If you are sitting in a boardroom, you don't have time to philosophize about object permanence.
No one wants to hear that in a meeting.
So this brings us to a vital question. How do we summarize these vast human experiences when we just need to get straight to the point?
This leads us into the final framework of our deep dive.
Oh.
The absolute essence of the argument.
The essence, yeah.
After exploring these expansive, detailed scenarios, we have to look at how the English language elegantly compresses massive amounts of chaotic data into tiny, highly efficient metaphorical spaces.
We are talking about the mechanics of distilling information.
Precisely. And the first method of distillation we use is what we can call spatial compression.
Spatial compression. I like the sound of that.
When we need to summarize a sprawling, complicated narrative in just a few words, we put the story in a nutshell.
In a nutshell.
What's fascinating about this idiom is the literal physical scale it demands you to visualize.
Think about the physical shell of a nut, like a pistachio or a small walnut.
It is incredibly tiny.
The internal volume is practically zero. It can fit in the palm of a child's hand.
Right. So the mental exercise required by this idiom is one of extreme, almost violent data compression.
You have to take a massive emotionally charged event and shrink the data points until they fit inside that microscopic physical space.
Let's look at a disastrous travel scenario.
Oh, these are always good examples.
Imagine you go on a 2-week international vacation and everything goes wrong. Think about the sheer amount of data in that story.
There's so much. You have the anxiety of oversleeping, the frantic traffic on the highway,
The physical exertion of sprinting through the airport terminal.
the horror of watching the gate agent close the door just as you arrive.
And that's just the morning. Then you have the hour-long negotiation with customer service to get rebooked.
You finally arrive in Paris, stand at the baggage carousel for 45 minutes, and realize your luggage is on a plane to Tokyo.
You take an overpriced 2-hour taxi ride in the pouring rain to your boutique hotel, only to find a padlock on the door and a sign saying they went bankrupt.
That is a highly emotional, deeply complex narrative. It would literally take an hour to explain properly over dinner.
But let's say it's Monday morning and you are standing at the office coffee machine.
Okay, totally different setting.
Your colleague, who has a meeting in 2 minutes, casually asks, "Hey, how was the trip to Paris?"
They do not have the time nor the bandwidth to process your epic saga of misery.
Exactly. You cannot unpack all that luggage.
Well, you use spatial compression. You force all of that emotional and physical data into the nutshell.
You look at them and say, missed flight, lost luggage, bankrupt hotel. In a nutshell, it was an absolute disaster.
You have successfully taken a mountain of chaotic experience and formatted it into a tiny, easily digestible container for your listener.
It works exactly the same way in a corporate environment.
Oh, for sure. Imagine sitting through a grueling 3-hour quarterly review meeting.
Just brutal.
The room is filled with PowerPoint slides containing hundreds of data points. Executives are arguing over market share. Marketing teams are defending their ad spend.
The IT department is complaining about server costs.
People are talking over each other, and there are 3 different coffee breaks. It is a massive, unstructured flood of data.
But when your direct supervisor, who wasn't in the room, stops you in the hallway and asks what happened, you don't regurgitate 3 hours of dialogue.
You use the nutshell.
You say, in a nutshell, revenue is down, so we are cutting the departmental budget by 10%.
It is the briefest, most concise summary possible.
Now, in a nutshell is an excellent tool for summarizing a sequence of events.
Right, a timeline.
But there's a final idiom that achieves a slightly different, perhaps more profound type of distillation.
It isn't just about making a long story shorter.
No, it is about finding the fundamental, unvarnished truth hiding beneath a highly complex situation. The idiom is what it boils down to.
Oh, I use this one all the time.
It's very common. And this is a form of thermal distillation.
The physical physics of this metaphor are absolutely brilliant. I want you to picture a large, heavy iron pot sitting on a stove.
It is filled to the brim with a murky liquid.
The fire is turned on high, and the liquid is violently boiling, bubbling, and churning for hours.
If we look at the actual science of what is happening in that pot, the thermal energy is causing the water, the sheer volume of the liquid, to turn into steam and evaporate into the air.
It's literally disappearing.
Right. The physical volume inside a pot is constantly, relentlessly decreasing over time.
But here is the critical culinary reality.
Right.
The water that evaporates was never the point of the dish.
The water was just the carrier.
Exactly. It was the filler. As the water boils away into steam, it leaves behind a thick, highly concentrated reduction at the very bottom of the pot.
And that thick reduction contains the essential flavor.
The absolute core essence of whatever you are cooking.
And this mirrors high-level intellectual analysis perfectly.
It really does. When you are looking at a complex business crisis, a political scandal, or even a failing relationship, there is a massive amount of water in the pot.
And the water represents the noise.
In a corporate setting, the water is the endless stream of emails, the shifting of blame between departments,
The sophisticated marketing jargon.
and the slick presentation slides designed to obscure the truth.
Exactly. If you are sitting in a boardroom arguing about why a flagship product is failing in the market, the noise is deafening.
The design team is arguing that the logo color is wrong.
The marketing team is arguing that the social media outreach algorithm changed.
The sales team is arguing that the supply chain is too slow.
All of those arguments are the water, boiling and bubbling violently on the surface, creating a massive cloud of steam that blinds everyone to reality.
But if you possess the intellectual rigor to let the heat of analysis run long enough, all that noisy, distracting water eventually evaporates.
The excuses turn to steam.
The jargon disappears. And you look at the bottom of the pot and you find the heavy, concentrated, undeniable truth.
And in that product failure scenario, you might look at the bottom of the pot and realize what it fundamentally boils down to is that the product is simply too expensive for the target demographic.
Wow, yeah. All the logo changes in the world won't fix the essence of the problem.
It cuts through the deception completely.
If a massive tech company goes bankrupt, the financial news networks will spend hours talking about macroeconomic headwinds, shifting consumer trends, and geopolitical supply chain instability.
But if you evaporate all those external, sophisticated excuses, it might fundamentally boil down to a CEO who refused to listen to their engineers.
The idiom demands that we stop being hypnotized by the steam and start looking at the actual essence left in the pan.
It is the ultimate tool for achieving clarity in a chaotic world.
It really is. And honestly, looking back at this incredible journey through the linguistic landscape today, it is staggering to see how much color, depth, and raw emotional resonance these idioms add to daily English.
It's so much more than just a list of vocabulary words.
We started by trudging through the mud to hunt bacon for survival.
We sat passively while silver platters were delivered to the privileged.
We suffocated in the sour acid of pickle jars.
We exhausted our hands trying to crack organic walnuts.
We stewed in the low heat of our own anxiety.
We acknowledged the irreversible fluid dynamics of spilled milk.
We tried to defy the laws of physics by keeping our cake while eating it.
And finally, we boiled away the chaotic noise of the world to find the heavy truth at the bottom of the pot.
It is a phenomenal roadmap of human psychology.
And this is the critical takeaway for anyone listening. Mastering these specific metaphorical concepts is what shifts you out of the sterile realm of intermediate vocabulary.
Where you are just mechanically snapping dictionary definitions together.
Exactly. And it firmly places you into the territory of sounding like a highly educated native speaker.
Because a native speaker doesn't just know the definition. They understand the visceral weight and the historical context of the words they choose.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the fastest way to internalize this isn't to just passively listen to us or memorize flashcards.
No, you have to use it.
You have to synthesize these concepts into your own life.
The next time you find yourself trapped in a seemingly impossible situation at work, don't just say, I have a problem. Tell a friend, I am in a massive pickle.
Feel the claustrophobia of the jar.
When you catch yourself lying awake on a Sunday night replaying a conversation, physically catch yourself and say, I need to stop stewing over this.
Turn the heat off. Map the language onto your own physical reality.
As we wrap up this deep dive, there is a final, rather profound reflection that emerges from studying this framework that I think is deeply worth mulling over.
I think so too. We have seen that the English language uses the mechanics of food and digestion to describe almost every facet of the human experience.
From the macroeconomics of labor to the micro-anxieties of the psyche.
So we have to ask the ultimate question. Why? Why does our language do this?
If we rely so heavily on the vocabulary of physical consumption, chewing, digesting, boiling, cracking, hunting, and savoring to describe our most complex intellectual dilemmas and emotional crises, what does that reveal about the architecture of the human mind?
It strongly suggests a profound, inescapable biological tether.
Meaning we can't escape our biology.
Right. It reminds us that no matter how sophisticated our modern world becomes, no matter how advanced our artificial intelligence strategies grow, or how deep our psychological frameworks get, our brains are fundamentally ancient.
We are biological organisms first.
And we still process the abstract complexities of the modern world in exactly the same way our ancestors processed their physical reality.
We consume information, we digest massive problems,
We metabolize failure.
and we endlessly hunger for success.
It brings us right back to the kitchen, doesn't
It
it?
really does. We desperately want communication to be this pristine, sterile diagnostic tool, but the reality is beautifully, wonderfully messy.
We're all just trying to make sense of the ingredients we've been given in this life.
We hope you have a phenomenal morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world right now. Keep practicing, keep analyzing the hidden logic of the words you use, and remember that true fluency is never just handed to anyone on a silver platter.
You have to go out and work for it.
Until next time, keep diving deep.